All right, so welcome everybody. This is always that awkward stage where you don't realize that they're recording and that it's going to be on your live feed, but it is. But we're just waiting for people to hop on, right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, because we support everybody in this community. Welcome to the live today for training on the little vacuum bipolar head. I want to thank you guys all for joining me here today. You know, one of the key foundational values of Halftime Physique is to educate, uplift, and empower those in the body contouring industry. And, you know, I really like to think of the idea of building communities where we can support and engage with each other so that we can all better our practices, better our services, and just better the industry in general. So we're doing this free live today just because at this point there's no reason not to know, right? And more education can just really help to empower and uplift all of us. So let's do it. All right, so the first thing that I want to start with, vacuum therapy. All right, the vacuum therapy bipolar. Oh my gosh, sorry, I was arranging everything. Where did it go? Is a basic setup. Oh man, I lost the, hold on. When you receive the machine. So I did have it with me, but I moved a bunch of things around. It was hiding behind my dolphin. All right, ladies. When you get your machine, okay, you know it comes with a whole bunch of different parts. We're specifically talking about the bipolar frequency, radio frequency head with vacuum therapy. You get this little baggie. We all kind of recognize it, but we never really realized what to do with it. So inside these bags there are these white little, you know what they look like? You know when you get acne, those little things you stick on your face? Some are thicker than others, some look like sponges. This is the filter for your vacuum therapy handle. All right, you want to keep these because this is what you're going to use when you're cleaning your machine. Speaking on that, the machines, all of them, they have a little place where the suction is produced. On some of them, you can get a pair of tweezers, pop it out, and if you take a look, actually, sorry, my filter came off with it. Here is that little sponge. Mine's a little dirty. Okay, what will happen? If this sponge gets too clogged, if you're not cleaning it regularly, the suction's going to be reduced. You're going to have an issue with the suction. This is why we have these little pieces. We clean and disinfect, and then you can slide in a new filter, all right? And this is to protect the machine from any of the oils entering. It's going to protect the lifespan of your machine. Remember that the machine is always dealing with suction. It's not dealing with force, so we're not necessarily putting this product back on the client. It's being pulled away from their skin, but cleaning and sanitation is a priority as well as maintenance of your machine. So we've got that little piece. You can see on the other machine here, it is the same. We've got the little plastic piece inside, which again, to reiterate guys, you can get a little tweezer, pull it out. I'm gonna do it again because I'm pretty sure all of mine need to be cleaned. I saved it for this. All right, and then there is the little filter inside that can be replaced. Then you can clean and sanitize this piece, put it back in. Again, make sure that no fluids get inside or else you're gonna damage your equipment. If you run out of these, all right, because we all know that maintenance supplies is pretty hard to get from China, and if you don't have contact with your trainer, that can be even more challenging if you don't know where you got your machine from. So I have seen some girls MacGyver these with sponge, all right, so cutting it into the same kind of shape, sticking it in there, it's going to have that same purpose to absorb the fluids that are coming off the skin and protect your machine. Second thing is setup and plugging in. We know that we have for all of our parts female and male parts. So there we have the male part on the back of the machine or the front of the machine if you have the S shape. It fits nicely into the female. So the holes match the plug. And that's how you can identify if your machine didn't come with a manual. Some of these manuals, as we know guys, oh my God, that's work. It is not very clean or clear. Okay, so we've gone over basic setup. Basic cleaning, oh, I forgot to put that in, for these parts. It goes the same across the board. I know the Kim 8, it doesn't have a plastic piece. However, you can unscrew the knob. It's going to take a lot of effort. Not the top, not the actual portion here, but you can unscrew, and where these attach inside of the Kim 8, there is a silver piece that is going to take a lot of effort to unscrew the first time, but that is where a lot of this fluid builds up inside, and that again is where you would replace this little sponge, okay? The next thing I want to talk about is suction levels. So most of us were taught one of two things. Don't use it, the suction's too high, it's not useful, I don't know how to use it, I never used it, so you don't really need any treatment process. All of those things are lies. Or maybe some people just don't like to use it. I shouldn't say that. I don't want to criticize anybody, so I apologize for that. Basically, when you turn on your machine, okay, depending on the machine that you have, I'm going to show you here. This is an analog machine that I have, so it's a smaller version of the Kim 8. It's an analog machine, which means the buttons, it doesn't have a digital screen, so we'll plug it in anyway so that you guys can see. Oh my gosh, I made a mess over here, what I'm talking about. But first we're going to start with our S shape, okay? And again, this is the same across the board for this vacuum therapy handle, all right, guys? The suction is not addressed here where it says suction. Ironically, that doesn't actually turn up or turn down the suction level. It's the silver knob at the top, all right? So typically when I'm starting a treatment, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have this turned all the way down. I'm gonna use it on the client, and then I'm gonna gradually increase it depending on the purpose of my treatment process, okay? We're looking for another number of things when we're doing that, but we'll get into that shortly. First, we need to know how the machine actually works. So we're adjusting the suction levels here. And then we're adjusting how long the suction level occurs here, all right? So as you know, with these machines, you can have them on pulse, you can have them on full suction, okay? You can have them for a longer suction and a shorter pulse, or you can have them on a longer pulse, which is the release portion, and a shorter pull, okay? This is gonna help you to customize your treatment process depending on what area of the body you're working on, what treatment you're servicing, and what goals you're trying to accomplish, all right? So to reiterate, we're gonna adjust the tension, the actual suction, how strong that is by the silver knob here. On the machine over here, it's this little silver knob. They can be hard to find sometimes. They're at the back, guys. Sometimes they're at the top, but that's gonna help you to adjust the suction levels. As I mentioned, always start lower because these machines get really intense, and you can gradually increase it to the comfort level of the client as well as the purpose for your treatment process that you're trying to achieve. Next thing we're talking about is on the digital or analog display, okay? The suction here is how long it's going to be suctioning for. So, for example, if I turn this suction up to 1, it's going to be continuous suction. So the suction is up at 1, the release is at 0. Same with the Kim 8 or any of these. If you have the release at 0, it should be giving you continuous suction, okay? See, if I've got continuous suction and 0 release, me turning up the suction levels on any of the machines isn't going to increase the suction produced. Only the silver knobs are going to do that, okay? Well, this one's pink, so just look for the knobs, okay, guys? Only that knob is going to do that. If I want a release now, and I put this release, it's gonna start doing pull, release, pull, release, pull, release, that pulsating, okay? Now, if I increase this suction and I leave this release lower, it's gonna have a longer pull, release, pull, release, pull, release. if I increase this release, I'm going to have a pull, release, pull, release, pull, release. All right, guys? So again, it's controlling the length of the pull and the release. And this is why so many of us had challenges adjusting the suctions when we got these machines, because we thought that it was actually done where it says suction. And I mean, common sense really does dictate that. Like, I would assume, yes, but it's not working. Why isn't my machine working? The part doesn't work. Its suction's too strong. Don't bother using it. Ask why, okay? Find solutions. Why and how, that's what we always want to know, guys. Key in this industry. Understanding what we're communicating. So, again, hey, we're going to just kind of adjust it there. All right, so now we know we've got the knob for suction levels, suction buttons for how long that suction occurs, releases for how long the release occurs, okay? Shorter suctions, so shorter pulls, faster releases. And then you'll hear that machine clicking, click, 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 click. That click is usually an indication of the release on the handle. So now we kind of know the basics of how to operate it. We now know how to control the suction levels. We know how to control the pull and the release. How do we implement this in our treatment process, okay? Now, vacuum therapy is a phenomenal tool, especially when it comes to contouring the body, okay? So when we're looking to contour, to create a silhouette or build a booty, we know that there are fundamental steps that we need to include before we can go and mobilize any fatty tissue, because you just can't pull fat. Not going to get into that though, because that is advanced training. That's where I gotta plug my course, guys. But don't worry, okay? I'm sure you all know that already. Anyways, continuous suction, that's when we're looking for contouring, okay? So here on continuous suction, I can then pull in the waistline. I can start to mobilize fatty tissue over into the glutes. I can kind of pull out those inner thighs. I can contour those banana rolls, and so forth, okay, guys? Now, what did I talk about? The bipolar RF, all right? And I waited because, of course, you can adjust that. That one's pretty straightforward on the machine. We've got the bipolar RF here. It goes up and down. If you have the Kim 8, it's going to be bars. If you have another machine like the analog machine I have here, sometimes it's number, but the RF is pretty much, I mean, that one's straightforwardly displayed, whereas we get a little confused with regards to suction and release and what that exactly means, okay? So the RF one's straightforward. The higher you have those bars, the higher you have those numbers, the stronger that heat is going to be. Now, that heat is definitely not as strong as our pronged handles, okay? It is not going to be as strong as our pronged handles. However, guys, the same technique is going to apply when we have it on that higher heat. Higher heat, moving it faster, all right? So here, talking about what I was talking about previously, bringing it back to the contouring. So contouring, we're pulling, we're contouring, we're shaping the body. We've got our fundamental steps done prior to make this more achievable. We can then be moving it faster across the body, of course, on full suction. And we can have this temperature higher because it's moving faster, all right? So we can get some nice stimulation of that collagen and elastin. We can get some nice heat produced on that fatty tissue as well. And we can start to mobilize some of that fatty tissue, break up some of that fatty tissue with our movements. Higher heat, faster movements, guys. Continuous suction levels when contouring, all right? I'm gonna give you guys this one because you're gonna take it and run with it, okay? When we are adjusting suction levels for vacuum therapy, if you don't have a machine like Delphin, which does it automatically for you for each part of the treatment steps, when we have to manually gauge it, how do we know? How do we know what suction level is best, okay? First and foremost, comfort level of the client is priority, okay? Because you can't be pulling on a body regardless of what the suction level is if your client is in pain, all right? Maybe another treatment is more suitable for whatever their concern is rather than vacuum therapy. What to look for, guys? If I am going to do a stroke and there is a thick red line that occurs immediately as I do that stroke, that suction's too high. You're gonna have to adjust it. As I work that area and that blood flow and those capillaries start to get that attention, and it starts to get red with the pull, all right, we're good. Now you will have some clients who are more sensitive, so you may have to start on a lower suction and gradually increase it because we do need that pull to mobilize that fatty tissue. However, guys, you're gonna have to work through that through the treatment process, right? Everybody is unique, everybody's an individual, we're all gonna react differently to treatment, and you're gonna have to make adjustments. But contouring, full suction, you can have higher heat because why? We're moving it faster, right? We're looking that there's no red lines, all right? This does have the ability to create some inflammation, some bruising. Vacuum therapy always has a higher risk of bruising. We're gonna do some preparation steps, and then we're gonna move into recovery steps afterwards because it also, we don't want that swelling for those after photos, right? So we're gonna have basic steps to reduce some of that swelling. I can't go over all of that because halftime method. Online training, guys. But yeah, so contouring. One of the things I want to talk about here, which is this is a risky one, all right? And I say this, it's more of a risk for me to discuss it because I don't mean to upset anybody, but using it for drainage, okay? Absolutely. Absolutely, you can use it for drainage, guys. I'm not arguing that. What I want to make you guys aware of is when you're using it for draining, the levels of suction that you're using, okay? The lymphatic system is very topical, all right? Any kind of pressure for lymphatic massage or to help drain needs to be minimal so that we're not collapsing those lymph vessels. If you're using this for lymphatic drainage, make sure you know your directional patterns and make sure that that suction level is very low. I prefer to do drainage with my hands. I've taken online courses from registered massage therapists who are qualified to teach those things. I've recommended those courses in my stories. Maybe I'll post it again after the story just so you guys can go in and check it out because it will really help to advance your draining and your technique, okay? Again, education is key and we're here to uplift, encourage, and empower each other. So I want to provide you with the resources that I mentioned here, okay? Because we can all just grow from that. Yeah, so lymphatic drainage, yes, low suction, low heat, guys, okay? And the reason for that is if I am doing lymphatic drainage with this machine, one, don't want to burn the client, right? Don't want to collapse the vessels because I'm moving it slower than I would with contouring, okay? Contouring regularly, fast movements, fast can be higher temperatures. Moving slower is gonna be lower RF temperatures. Anything with your lymphatic system is minimal pressure unless we're talking about the stimulation of the lymph nodes. Okay, so we've done contouring. So again, contouring can be applied waist, banana rolls, inner thighs, booty. So guys, phenomenal tool. If you don't have the Delphin, or even if you do have the Delphin, it is a phenomenal tool for those booty lifts, okay? And I go over that in my courses as well as to why. The next thing I wanted to mention is cellulite. I love cellulite. I love cellulite in general because usually it means I've got a butt. If I'm starting to see some cellulite there, it's like, ooh, I'm getting thick. Sorry, I can't be serious about anything. But cellulite. Okay, we know that the key components with regards to cellulite, or at least we should know, are the connective tissues tethering the skin to the muscle or subdermal layers of the dermis, right? So going in deeper. And what can happen in some cases, not always, guys, again, can't be applied off the board, but in some cases, when we've got cellulite that's pushing up against the skin, we've got that skin tethering down, and again, only in some cases and some types. So guys, don't try to apply this for every type of cellulite. But those connective tissues, that connective tissue or fascia, because I mean everything's kind of made up collagen, elastin, collagen, elastin, collagen, elastin. It can be restricted, you know, it can become tight. It pulls down around that. So one of the components that we're trying to do is lengthen or stretch that connective tissue to reduce that dimpling. And initially, what I was doing with this is I was working it similar to contouring. So I was kind of pulling, stroking, okay? This is a good method, but we can stretch that connective tissue even further, and not to a harmful way, guys. We're not snapping things, like we just don't have the capability to do that. Don't worry. Lots of elastin in that skin. This is where that pulse comes in, guys. What we can do is whenever you're on pulse, you have the ability to increase the suction level, because as soon as the client starts to feel any kind of discomfort, it's going to release. However, with that quick pull and release, one, the body doesn't respond with as much bruising or inflammation because it has that recovery, and we're able to stretch or apply a little more pull on that connective tissue to loosen it. So if I'm using a medium suction, because again, I'm being safe, I'm working smart, I'm not trying to cause any tissue damage with that continuous suction, moving it up, trying to elongate that connective tissue, break up fatty deposits, and more. I gotta keep some stuff so that I can continue to sell my courses, guys. You know, if I'm doing that, again, always safely, always preparing the tissue, you know, always thinking about the body and how it reacts to stimulus. I can only do that at a certain suction level, and it may be more minimal because that's all the body can react. Maybe they have more sensitive skin, right? Maybe they're more sensitive. Maybe she's close to her period and she's got really high skin sensitivities. You know, I still want the treatment to be effective. If I go and I switch the machine onto pulse and I do a pull, release, move, pull, release, move, pull, release, move, pull, release, move, and work my way up that thigh, I am now able to lengthen that connective tissue at a higher suction, okay, really focused on that connective tissue, lengthening that connective tissue, reducing that dimpling. And gradually moving it across is going to cause, again, less reddening, less inflammation. I can have a little more suction there to really get that tension, again, on the connective tissue. So pulse, really great for that. Pulse can be really nice at the end of a contouring session as well. So remember pulse, pull, release, pull, release, pull, release, to further break up any fatty deposits. Because if we're contouring, where are we trying to mobilize that fatty tissue, guys? Are we trying to give fupas? No, we can pull, release, and further break up any fatty tissue, because we still got the RF there, right? At the bottom, slower, lower heat, okay? Even, sorry, I didn't touch on that with the cellulite. Slower, lower heat. Contouring, faster, higher heat. When not to use vacuum therapy, bipolar radiofrequency, is anybody with really high laxity, okay? High laxity in their tissue. And that's basically really loose skin, right? Excessive amounts of skin. Because what's going to happen is we're going to pull on the skin. We're going to get less in-depth not penetration, because I mean the frequencies are penetrating, but we're going to get less in-depth pull on fatty tissue because it's going to be the skin that is collecting inside of that little cup versus the fatty tissue, right? So it's going to get more of a surface pull and reduced with the depth, okay? Circumference is a big thing too. So you'll see that the circumference here is smaller than circumference here. You can also get handles that are quite wider with the bipolar radio frequency. Those are really, really nice, especially when we're talking about booty lifts. They're really good for that. We've got a small one on the S shape, which can be used for facials or lymphatic drainage of the face. Again, low suction for lymphatic drainage. We're not using this on clients with contraindications. We're going to avoid extremely loose skin as well. I have a question here, so we can jump into some questions. So I just want to reiterate, I covered setup of the machine, cleaning, how to clean it, what the suction control actually is versus what pull release functions are. We talked about the radio frequency, so lower radio frequency when moving slower, higher when moving faster. We talked about some of the treatments you can do with this, so contouring, cellulite, booty building, sorry, I've got the memory of like a squirrel. I'm like, okay, what did I? Anyways, this video is going to be saved so you guys can watch it over and over again. So yes, we can get into a couple questions now. First is, some sculptors don't recommend vacuum on abdomen after ultrasonic cavitation and RF. Well, the thing about body contouring, guys, is we all kind of develop our own techniques, and this is what makes it so beautiful, is we have the uniqueness of our own methods and of our own backgrounds. So I have a background in fitness and nutrition. I know some are nurses, some started from customer service. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different things about us that make us unique, and we can bring those things to our treatment, right? We should never put anything in a box. This is the way, you have to, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's some basic things, but always ask why, always ask how. So why some body sculptors don't recommend vacuum on abdomen after ultrasonic cavitation and RF. So I would say, and I can be wrong, absolutely, based on my experience, one, is the abdomen excessive skin? Is it excessively loose skin? Because then, no, I'm not going to use the vacuum therapy on it anyways. Oh, here's a good one, body mass index, okay? If I have a client who is heavier set and who really needs more fat reduction and not so much contouring, I'm not gonna try to contour waistline. Like, it wouldn't make sense. You'd be working harder and not smarter, okay? Because you can't necessarily contour a waistline that needs a fat reduction first. Why wouldn't you use it after cavitation and RF on a regular body? Well, for one, what is the purpose of the treatment? Are we including it for contouring? Are we including it for lymphatic drainage? If I'm doing cavitation first, am I working with the heat break drain method? Because then you'd want to be applying heat prior to the breaking. Or, why would I be doubling my efforts if I'm already including RF? What is the purpose of me including the bipolar RF? Do they need to contour, or am I going underneath to break up the fatty tissue in the lower abdomen? So these are all components that you need to ask yourself. Again, working smarter smarter rather than harder. Smarter, work smarter, not harder. Why is that so hard for me to say? And really thinking your treatments too, am I doubling my efforts? Am I doubling my time? Can I use one thing versus two things to resolve this symptom? So I can't speak on behalf of everybody about why they would say don't use vacuum therapy after cavitation and RF. It may be their treatment process. However, those are just some factors that I would always think about before ever applying any kind of modality on the body. Also, when BMI is high, no vacuum. So it's thinking, yes. Okay, so I'm not sure if that was a statement. I'm sorry, I was scrolling down, love. Thank you, Perry. It's again thinking about the purpose of the treatment. So higher BMI, as mentioned. Am I contouring? Am I draining? What is the purpose? Can I hire someone with a contour someone with a higher BMI? No, because I have to reduce that fatty tissue before I go over with the vacuum therapy. Okay, but some body contours, as I mentioned, they use this for drainage. So maybe you would use it on someone with a higher BMI for the lymphatic drainage. And here's another very good point that, you know, sometimes people, I think it's because some use the suction really high, absolutely, and clients start to swell. So this actually ties in with another question that I just got. Please go over how to reduce swelling after vacuum therapy so that we can get a nice after photos. So basic, without giving too much, because again, guys, I have courses. Basic is going to be recovery, guys. If we're doing anything to the body, especially vacuum therapy needs a recovery process that needs to be implemented in your treatment. And that is exactly where we're reducing swelling, where we're reducing redness, where we're reducing any unesthetically pleasing visuals that could complicate our before and afters. A basic way of reducing swelling at the end of the treatment is a proper lymphatic massage, and that can really help. So in this case, this is where, okay, maybe don't use the vacuum for a lymphatic massage, use your hands, use the right pressure, and that can help to reduce swelling too. There are other ways, and as soon as you figure it out, you're going to be like, oh my God, why didn't I think of this in the first place? I can't, like I said, I can't give everything away today, just because I do have these phenomenal online courses, and I do offer continuous mentorship and support for my students that kind of give them all this and more. So please bear with me. I do apologize. I'm always on the fence of how much am I giving away versus how much I gotta save. So, but yes, so basic would be the recovery stage to help to reduce the swelling, and a proper lymphatic massage. And your recovery phase can, see, my students are giving things away. Yes. I love it. And thank you guys for all the compliments. Did you mention you recommended RF before cavitation? So again, I'm not making any specific recommendations like that. However, publicly known, there is the heat break drain method. Not always something that I include. Again, everybody reacts differently. However, theoretically, it does make sense, creating malleability in the fatty tissue, further breaking it down. But guys, that is not, I'm not saying that is the one way or that is the way to do it. Everybody is unique. Everybody contouring specialist is unique as well, okay? You guys are gonna come up with some phenomenal techniques, and I really hope, you know, now just kind of going over, you can review this video as well, kind of going over some of the key points of how this vacuum therapy portion bipolar frequency works. You'll be able to kind of think, how can I include it to make my treatments better? How can I use it better? And just really escalate your results, as well as, you know, customer service, as well as, you know, oh my gosh, sorry guys. See, what happens is I try to read it at the same time, and then I lose my train of thought. So we're gonna reiterate, everybody, okay? One last time. We know adjusting suction, the actual tension in the knob. We know that the suction here is going to be how long that suction and tension is recurring. The next is going to be the release. So how long the release is, how frequently that release is for that pulsing, okay? We learned how to clean it, so we can pop these out. Your machine came with these filters for cleaning. We know that when we're dealing with the treatment process, if we're moving faster, RF higher. If we're moving slower, RF lower, okay? We now have some ideas of how we can use it in our session for contouring, possibly lymphatic drainage, or it's really not, it's lymphatic massage drainage. I mean, the definitions are so clouded, but booty building, cellulite reduction, okay? So guys, take this. Yeah, take this, and I really hope it helps your business grow. I'll try to do some more of these without like ruining my career. Keeping it real, guys. But yeah, so always here to uplift, encourage, and support. Continuous mentorship and professional development is included with the purchase of all my courses. I do prioritize my students, as they all know, try to get back to them as frequently or as consistently and quickly, etc. as possible. But guys, like, I hope you gleaned from this. I hope you learned something new. I hope you found new ways to develop your treatment process and think outside the box. Always ask how, always ask why. And yeah, so thank you guys. Hopefully we'll find another live to do soon, and I really appreciate you all joining. I think that's it for the questions. Hopefully I went over everything thoroughly. I'm just gonna give it another minute to go over. Like I said, you can then watch this as many times as you want. Share it, because again, we want to build up the community. We're not creating competition, we're creating community, okay? So yeah, we just want to build up everybody, because the more we all perform top notch, the better we're setting ourselves apart from others in the industry, but we're also protecting our clientele. So the more we educate ourselves, the more we educate our clients, we are creating a better community in general. So have a wonderful afternoon, evening, or morning, depending where you're located, and hopefully we can do another one soon. I'm going to post this, guys, so you will see it. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today.